everyone. Today we're going to be looking at solving or multiplying rational numbers when they have decimals. So in order to solve these problems, there's two different ways that we can work on them. We can solve them like we did in our last lesson, where we created fractions and then multiply straight across. Or we can solve them as decimals. So we're going to look at these problems two different ways today. So our first example that we're going to look at is a problem that looks like this one. I have negative 2.5 or 2 5/10 times 3.6 or 3 6/10. So there's two ways that I can solve this problem. So my first way that I'm going to solve this is by converting it into a fraction. Okay, so that's going to be our very first way. So let's take this one and we're going to convert it to a fraction. So this looks like negative 2 1/2 or 5/10. And I'm going to keep it as 5/10 because this problem here is also in the tenths place. So I'm going to go do this one now. And this one looks like 3 6/10. So I've converted both of these into fractions just by reading this number as tenths. This is just like when we were adding rational numbers or subtracting rational numbers that were fractions. Now, our next job is to make improper fractions. So just like our last lesson, we had to make sure that we're multiplying a fraction by a fraction, and if not, we make them. We're going to make those. So we're going to multiply and add. So we get 25 over 10, or negative 25 over 10, times 36. Over 10. So now what we're going to do is we're going to solve 25 times 36, and we're just going to multiply straight across. 10 times 10 equals 100. And 25 times, so negative 25 times 36, we're going to multiply that one out. I need to do that out here in the margin. So I have 25 times 36, 30. And 3 times 5 is 15. Carry my 1, 6, 7. So I get 0, 10, 9, 900. Okay, now I want this to be in decimal form. So 900 divided by 100 would give us a whole number of 9. So this equals 9 or 9.00. Okay, so that's the way that you've been learning. Now let's check out what this looks like if we just keep them decimals and we multiply a decimal by a decimal. So we're going to check out the same problem here. Actually, let's do a new one. So let's look at this problem. This color pen is almost dying. Okay, let's say, oh, and then I forgot my negative sign. So negative over here. So this is negative 9 because a negative times a positive is a negative. Do not forget to look at your negative signs. Okay, this problem is going to look like this. So let's say that I have 1.2, and I'm going to multiply that times negative 0.4. Okay, so I can look at this problem, and I can solve these just by multiplying without having to convert to fractions. So the way that I would do this is I'm going to set this problem up just like a normal multiplication problem. Okay, a normal multiplication problem. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how many places after the decimal there are. So in this one, there is 1 place. And on this one, there is 1 place. So that means I have 2 total places after the decimal point. We're going to hold on to that information because now I'm going to take this problem and I'm going to rewrite it without the decimal and I'm going to multiply just like normal. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. So now what I'm going to do is I have an answer of 48. I'm going to take this information here of 2 places and I'm going to bring it around here and start at the end and I'm going to jump 2 places and put in my decimal point. So my answer to this problem is 48 hundredths. So that you can have solved this problem by sticking with fractions if you want. So 1 2/10 times 4/10, -4/10, and I need to put my negative sign on here because I have a positive times a negative. Or you can solve it by looking at the multiplying like normal and then just moving your decimal points over. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, we'll do another example that looks like this problem here so that you can see how to solve like this. Okay, so example C. Example C says that I have -1 6/10 times -2.4. Okay, we already know a negative times a negative is going to give us a positive. So my answer is going to be a positive something. Up here, we had a positive times a negative, so I knew I had to end in a negative. Up on A, I had a negative times a positive, so I knew my answer was going to be a negative. So on this problem, the rules are the same, but now we're just going to multiply. Okay. Oh, actually, no. Let's just do this. Okay, so I have 2. So I have 1 place after the decimal, so let's rewrite this. 1.6, there's 1 place. And I have -2.4, that's another place. And so now I'm going to multiply those. So that means I have a total of 2 places to move that decimal point back in. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. I'm going to rewrite it now as 1.6. Nope, sorry, pretend that's not there. 16 times 24. And so ignore that decimal. So 4 times 6, I'll just rewrite it because I know that some of you don't like to look at that. There we go. All right, 4 times 6 is 24, carry the 2. And 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. And then I put my 0 in there because I'm moving over to the tens column. So 2 times 6 is 12. And I'm going to carry my 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So now I'm just going to add and drop these all down. So 4, 8, and 3. And I need 2 places after the decimal point or at the end. So 4 places at the end. So I'm going to go 1, 2 places, put a decimal point. So my final answer is 3 84 hundredths, and it's a positive, so I don't need to put on a symbol. Okay, I'm going to turn my page now, so if you want to pause it so that you can keep looking at this, go for it. So we're going to do another example. All right, example D. All right, example D. Okay, so on this problem, again, you can convert it if you want to a fraction form and solve from there, or you can keep moving the decimal point out of the way. You're going to get the same answer no matter what. So on this problem, let's go ahead and solve it again. So 0.28 or 28 hundredths times 2.3. This is really important that you you can add in that 0 there if you want to, so it's in the same method, in the same place value, or you could just write it as 0.28 times 2.3, because you're going to end up ignoring that decimal point here in a second. So we see 1, 2, 3, so 3 places. So now I'm going to multiply and then move that decimal point in 3 places. So I have 28 times 23 when I rewrite that. Okay, 8 times 3 is 24. And then I get 3 times 2 is 6, 7, 8. Put a 0 for a placeholder. 16, carry the 1, 4, and then 5. Okay, add straight down. Where am I adding? 14, and then 5. And I need to move this decimal point 3 places over. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. So now my new number is 0.544, or 554 thousandths, because it's in the thousandths place. All right, it is your turn now to do some try-its, and you can solve using whichever method you like. They both get you the exact same answer, so you can use whichever method you prefer. Our first try-it number 1, looks like, oh, I did it again. This is a negative. Do not forget your negative signs. I keep telling you that, and then I keep forgetting them. Okay, this one, it's always good to go back and double check your work. Sorry that Miss Englander is not doing that tonight. 5.1 times 1.8. Okay, that's your first one. And then your second try-it is negative 6.3 times 0.6. And now you can ignore that 0 right there, because it's just a placeholder. So you can ignore that if you want. All right, go ahead and hit pause right now so you don't hear me solving. And then when you are ready, come on back. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this one as fractions for those of you who have been solving them as fractions. So this fraction is the same as negative 5 1/10 times 1 8/10. Okay, so now we're going to move these so that they are improper. So 51, or negative 51 over 10 times 18 over 10. All right, now we're going to solve straight across. We have common denominators, so this is 100 10 times 10 is 100. Multiply straight across on the top. And I'm going to solve 51 times 18 out to the side. That's 8 and 40. 1 and 5. Add this up. 918. Okay, so now we're going to convert this back into a decimal. So back into a decimal, 918 divided by 100 is 9, and I get 18 hundredths left over, or 9.18. 9 and 18 hundredths. This one was a negative, so I need to have a negative on here. So negative 9 and 18 hundredths is my final answer. Okay, again, go back, double check. Did you put your negative sign in there? Okay, number 2. On number 2, we're going to solve this one so that it follows the removing the decimal point. Okay, so I have negative 6.3 and I have 0.6 negative. Okay, so this is one place and one place for a grand total of 2 places. Now I'm just going to write 63. I know a negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to get rid of those negative signs right now. Multiply. So 6 times 3 is 18. Carry my 1. 6 times 6 is 36. Oh my gosh, I'm off the charts. And 36 plus 1 is 37. So now I need 2 places after. So I'm going to start here and go 1, 2. So my answer is 3.78. And it's a positive, so I leave it as a positive. All right, how did you do on solving these 2 triads? Negative 9 and 18 hundredths and 3 and 78 hundredths. How did you do? And then go ahead and answer your essential question. How do we solve rational numbers when they have decimals? And then put your level of understanding out to the side. When you're all finished, you can come on back to the Google Meet and ask for help, or you can go ahead and do your practice work. As always, I appreciate all of your hard work and effort, and make it a great day.